The kettle clicked off. I poured the water into the teapot. Earl Grey, my mother's favorite. The china was warm against my palm. I carried it to the living room. It was a Tuesday in March. My daughter, Clara, sat across from me on the sofa. She was scrolling through her phone. "Here you go, Mom," I said. My mother took the cup. Her hands were steady. "Thank you, Marion," she said. That was my name, Marion. I was 58 years old. I sat in my usual chair by the window. I watched the light filter through the maple tree in the front yard. It was the house I grew up in. My mother was 82. Clara was 29. My husband, Robert, had died 5 years earlier, a sudden heart attack. Since then, Clara visited more often. She said she was worried about us, about me and Mom living alone. She started coming over every Sunday. She would bring groceries. She would help with little things. A leaky faucet, a stubborn jar lid. It felt like care. It felt like love. Then it became Wednesdays, too. She said she could work from here. She said the house had better Wi-Fi. She would set up her laptop at the dining table. I would bring her coffee. She would smile. "You're a lifesaver, Mom." That's what she always said. One Wednesday, she didn't bring her laptop. She brought a file folder. "I was looking at your finances," she said. She spoke softly. "Just to help you see things clearer." I sipped my tea. "What do you mean?" I asked. "Dad handled everything," she said. "I know he did. It's a lot for you to manage now. All these accounts, investments, the trust from Grandma. My mother's mother had left me a modest trust. It paid the property taxes. It covered the extras. I manage fine," I said. My voice was quiet. Clara reached over. She patted my hand. "I know you do, but let me help. It would ease my mind." She opened the folder. She had printed out statements. My bank statements. My investment accounts. I didn't remember giving her the passwords. I must have, though. I must have written them down somewhere. She had highlighted a few lines. "See this fee," she said. Her finger tapped the paper. "It's a custodial fee. You're paying too much. I can move this to a better place." "Where?" I asked. "To my financial guy. He's excellent. He manages my portfolio." I looked at the numbers. They were just numbers. Robert had always explained them. Now they were just black ink on white paper. "Okay," I said. "Great," Clara said. She smiled. "It's just one less thing for you to worry about." That was how it began. A week later, she suggested consolidating. "It's simpler," she said. "Having everything in one place. I can set up a joint account for household expenses, for emergencies." "A joint account," I said. "Just for practicality," she said. "If something happens to you or to Grandma, I can pay bills. I can keep things running." It made a sad kind of sense. Robert was gone. I was alone. My mother was old. "I suppose that's sensible," I said. "It's just being prepared," Clara said. Her tone was gentle, reassuring. We went to the bank together. The manager knew Clara. She came in often for her business. She introduced me. "This is my mother, Marion. We're setting up a household management account." The manager was polite. He had us sign forms. I signed where Clara pointed. She handled everything. It felt like a relief to hand over the burden, to let someone else steer for a while. A month after that, Clara brought up the house. We were in the kitchen. I was washing the lunch dishes. "This place is a lot for you," she said. She leaned against the counter. "The upkeep, the yard, the stairs are getting harder for Grandma." "We manage," I said. "But you shouldn't have to just manage," she said. "You should thrive." She proposed an idea. A mother-in-law suite. In her home. She and her husband, David, had a spacious ranch house. It had a finished basement, a separate entrance, a small kitchenette. "It's just sitting there," she said. "We could fix it up. You and Grandma could live there. Together, you'd have your own space, but I'd be right upstairs if you needed anything." I looked out the window. At the maple tree. At the garden Robert had planted. "This is our home," I said. My voice was thin. "I know, Mom," Clara said. She came closer. She put a hand on my shoulder. "And it's a beautiful home, but homes are for people, not the other way around. Think of the equity. We could sell this place, invest the money. It would secure your future. And Grandma." She made it sound logical. Progressive. A smart next step. "Let's just talk to a realtor," she said. "No commitment, just to see." I agreed to talk. Just to see. The realtor was a friend of Clara. A brisk, smiling woman named Lisa. She walked through the house. She praised its character, its potential. Then she gave a number. An offer. It was lower than I expected. Much lower. "It's the market," Lisa said. "And the work it needs. The roof, the wiring, it's a project for someone." Clara nodded. She looked concerned. "That's less than I thought," she said. "But it's a starting point." I felt a flutter of unease. It was my father who built the porch. My mother who chose the wallpaper in the hall. It was where I brought my newborn daughter home. It was not a project. It was my life. But I didn't say that. I just nodded. "I'll think about it," I said. Clara's smile tightened. Just for a second. "Of course," she said. "Take your time." Time began to feel different. Clara's help became more directive. She started ordering groceries for delivery. She said it saved me a trip. But she ordered things we didn't eat. Fancy cheeses. Expensive cuts of meat. The bills went to the joint account. She started hearing people. A lawn service. A cleaning lady. "You shouldn't be mowing that slope," she said. "And dusting is hard on Grandma's lungs." The bills went to the joint account. I saw the statements. The numbers were getting bigger. I mentioned it one evening. "The expenses seem high," I said. Clara was looking at her phone. She didn't look up. "It's the cost of good help," she said. "And it's worth it, for your safety, for your comfort." "But my pension doesn't cover this," I said. "The trust does," she said. She finally looked at me. Her expression was patient, like she was explaining something to a child. "That's what the trust is for, Mom, to take care of you. Let it do its job." She made it sound foolish to question. To want to mow my own lawn. To want to buy my own tea. Then came the doctor's appointment. My mother's annual checkup. Clara drove us. She came into the exam room. The doctor asked my mother questions. My mother answered. She was sharp. She remembered dates. She knew her medications. Clara listened. She took notes on her phone. When the doctor finished, Clara spoke. "I've noticed some forgetfulness," she said. Her voice was low. "Confidential. She'll put the milk in the cupboard. She'll forget her neighbor's name, just little things." The doctor looked at my mother. My mother looked at Clara. Her face was blank. "I do not," my mother said. Her voice was clear. "Just last week, Mom," Clara said. She turned to the doctor. "It's probably nothing, but at her age, we want to be vigilant." The doctor nodded. He wrote something down. "We can do a cognitive screening next time," he said. "A baseline." In the car, my mother was silent. I sat in the back with her. "Clara," I said, "why did you say that?" Clara glanced at me in the rearview mirror. Her eyes were calm. "Say what?" "About the forgetfulness." "Oh, Mom," she said. She sounded sad. "I didn't mean to upset her. I'm just being honest with the doctor. It's for her own good. We have to face these things." My mother looked out the window. She didn't say a word. That night, I couldn't sleep. I went downstairs. I made tea. I sat at the kitchen table. The house was quiet. I thought about the joint account, the realtor's low offer, the doctor's note. A pattern was forming. It was a quiet pattern, made of concern, of help, of taking over. I finished my tea. I washed the cup. I went back to bed. I did nothing. A month later, Clara's husband, David, came over for dinner. He was a quiet man, a civil engineer. He talked about his work, about traffic flow, about structural loads. After dessert, Clara brought up the sweet again. "We got an estimate for the renovation," she said. "For the basement, to make it perfect for you too." She slid a paper across the table to me. It was a detailed quote. It was very high. "That's a lot," I said. David nodded. "Materials are expensive, and labor, but it's an investment in your comfort." "We're comfortable here," I said. My voice was firmer than I intended. Clara and David exchanged a look. A quick silent thing. "Of course you are," Clara said. She retrieved the paper. "It's just an option. We don't have to decide tonight." But the pressure was there. A soft, constant pressure. Like a hand on my back. Guiding me. A week after that, I got a letter. From the bank. It was a statement for the joint account. But it was addressed to Clara only. At her address. I called the bank. I identified myself. I asked why my statements were going to my daughter. The customer service representative was polite. She put me on hold. She came back. "The primary address on the account has been changed," she said. "To Clara Ellis, as of 3 weeks ago." "I didn't authorize that," I said. There was a pause. I could hear typing. "It shows here the change was requested online, through the verified profile, with the correct security answers." I felt cold. "Can you change it back?" I asked. "I can send a form to the primary account holder," she said. "That's me," I said. "According to our records, the primary account holder is Clara Ellis. You are listed as a joint owner." I hung up. My hands were shaking. I went to find my mother. She was in the living room, knitting. "Mom," I said, She looked up. Clara changed the bank account, I said. She made herself the primary holder. My mother put down her knitting. Her eyes were old and very clear. She's taking over Marion. I sat down. Why? I asked. It was a stupid question. My mother just looked at me. You need to wake up, she said. Then she went back to her knitting. That was the moment. The silent awakening. It didn't come with a shout. It came with a chill. A deep, settling chill. I went to my study, a small room Robert used as an office. I opened the filing cabinet. I pulled out all the files. Bank records, tax returns, the deed to the house, my mother's trust documents, my will, Robert's will. I spread them on the desk. I started to read. Really read. I saw the transfers Clara had initiated. From my investment account to the new one managed by her financial guy. The amounts were large. The fees were higher than before. I saw the automatic payments she had set up. To the lawn service. To the cleaning lady. To a subscription box for gourmet food. All from the joint account. My money. Our money. I found the original trust document. My grandmother's trust. It was for my benefit. For my mother's benefit. It named me as trustee. It specified the funds were for our health, education, maintenance, and support. It did not name Clara. I looked at the most recent statement for the trust. The balance was lower. Significantly lower. A line item showed a disbursement. A large one. To Ellis Holdings, LLC. I did not know what Ellis Holdings was. I went online. I searched the state business registry. Ellis Holdings, LLC was registered to Clara Ellis. Its formation date was 6 months ago. Its business purpose was listed as investments. My tea grew cold on the desk. The light faded outside. I turned on the lamp. I kept reading. I found the property tax records. I pulled them up. The taxes were paid. They were paid from the trust, as they always were. But the receipt was addressed to Clara. At her address, a note was on the digital file. Payer of record, Clara Ellis, authorized agent. I was not an angry person. Robert used to say I had a calm soul. But that calm was turning into something else. A focused clarity. I did not confront Clara. I did not cry. I started a new file on my computer. I labeled it home. I began to document. I took screenshots of bank statements. I downloaded PDFs of the trust documents. I saved the business registration for Ellis Holdings. I photographed the house. Every room. Every detail. I wrote down dates. Conversations. The realtor's visit. The doctor's appointment. The bank call. I wrote it all in simple sentences. Just the facts. I stored it in a password-protected folder. I backed it up to a small, encrypted drive. I hid the drive in a box of old photos. In the attic. I went about my days. I made tea. I talked to my mother. I greeted Clara when she came over. She came more frequently now. She talked about the suite, about how nice it would be. David is getting the permits, she said one day. For the renovation. We haven't agreed to move, I said. I was polishing a silver picture frame. A family foe. Clara as a baby. Clara sighed. Mom, you're being difficult. This is for the best. You're not seeing the big picture. What is the big picture? I asked. I kept polishing. Security, family, being together, letting me handle the hard stuff so you can relax. I looked up. What hard stuff? I asked. The finances, the house, the care. It's a burden. I'm taking it off your shoulders. I never asked you to, I said. My voice was quiet. Steady. Clara's smile faded. That's the thing, Mom. You don't have to ask. I see what needs to be done, and I do it. That's what family does. She left soon after. I finished polishing the frame. I looked at the photo. My younger self. Robert's smiling face. A tiny Clara in my arms. I put the frame back on the shelf. The next week, I received a certified letter. It was from a law firm. A firm I did not know. It stated they represented Clara Ellis. It concerned the welfare and financial management of myself and my mother, Evelyn. It suggested a meeting to discuss concerns about your current living situation and capacity to manage your affairs. It mentioned the possibility of establishing a protective arrangement, a guardianship. My hands did not shake this time. I felt very still. I showed the letter to my mother. She read it slowly. She handed it back. You'll need a lawyer, she said. A good one. I nodded. I went back to my study. I opened my document. I added this new fact. Letter from law firm. Guardianship suggested. I did not call Clara. I went online. I looked for lawyers. Not just any lawyer. An elder law attorney. One with a high rating. One who specialized in fiduciary abuse. I found one. Her name was Susan Park. Her office was in the city. A 40-minute drive. I called. I made an appointment. For the next day, I told my mother. I'll come with you, she said. No, I said. It's better if you're here, if Clara comes. My mother understood. She was my alibi. For normalcy. The next morning, I told Clara I was going to the library and the garden center. I'll be back by lunch, I said. She was working at the dining table. Okay, Mom, she said. She didn't look up. I drove to the city. Susan Park's office was in a brick building. It was quiet, modern. Her assistant showed me in. Susan Park was younger than I expected. Maybe 40. She had intelligent eyes. A calm demeanor. Ms. Ellis, she said. Please call me Marion. Marion, tell me why you're here. I opened my bag. I took out the certified letter. I handed it to her. She read it. Her expression didn't change. Okay, she said. What else? I took out my folder. Not the digital one. A printed summary. Timeline. Key documents. Bank statements. Trust documents. The Ellis Holdings filing. She took it. She read through it. She took her time. She asked a few questions. Clarifying dates. Amounts. You've documented this well, she said. Thank you. What do you want to happen? She asked. I thought about it. I want her to stop, I said. I want my accounts back. I want the trust left alone. I want her to leave us be." Susan Park nodded. "Those are valid goals. The letter changes things. It's a preemptive strike. She's laying groundwork to declare you incapacitated, to get control legally." The word hung in the air. Incapacitated. "I am not incapacitated," I said. "I know," Susan said. "But the process is the danger. Once a petition is filed, it becomes a public record. It creates doubt. Even if you win, the stigma can linger. We need to act before she files." "How?" I asked. "We go on the offensive. Quietly. We petition the probate court for an accounting of the trust. You are the trustee. You have a fiduciary duty to protect the assets. The unauthorized disbursement to her LLC is a breach. We demand she return the funds. We also send a cease and desist letter, demanding she stop acting as your agent, revoking any authority she claims to have." "Will that work?" I asked. "It will show the court you are competent. You are asserting your rights. It will force her to show her cards. If she pushes for guardianship after that, she looks predatory. The court will see it." I took a deep breath. "What does it cost?" I asked. Susan named a retainer. It was a significant number, but less than what Clara had taken. "I can pay it," I said. "From the trust. For legal fees to protect the trust. That's an allowable expense." A small smile touched Susan's lips. "Exactly," she said. We moved quickly. I signed the engagement papers. I wrote a check from the trust account. I had to go to the bank in person to do it. I told the teller I needed a counter check. From the trust account. She had to get a manager. The manager knew me. He remembered Robert. He processed the check. Susan drafted the petition. It was a dense document, full of legal language. But its heart was simple. Marion Ellis, as trustee of the Aliner P. Grant Trust, petitions the court for an order directing Clara Ellis to provide a full accounting of all funds received from said trust and to return any improperly disbursed assets. She also drafted a letter, a formal cold letter. It stated that Clara Ellis had no authority to act on my behalf, or my mother. It demanded she cease all contact with our financial institutions. It demanded she provide copies of all statements for the joint account. It revoked, in writing, any power of attorney she might claim. I signed both documents. Susan filed the petition with the court. She sent the letter by certified mail. The waiting began. Clara called 2 days later. Her voice on the phone was tight, controlled. "Mom, I got a letter from a lawyer." "I know," I said. "What is this? Why are you doing this?" "I am protecting my mother's trust," I said. "And myself. This is ridiculous. I'm trying to help you. Now you're wasting trust money on a lawyer. That's exactly the kind of poor judgment I was worried about." The script was so clear now. Any resistance was proof of my decline. "The court will decide," I said. My voice was calm. "You're tearing this family apart," she said. Her voice cracked. Just a little. A performance of hurt. "No," I said. "I am putting it back together." I hung up. It was the first time I had ever hung up on my daughter. My heart hammered against my ribs, but my mind was clear. The next week, we received a response from Clara's lawyer. It was aggressive. It denied any wrongdoing. It claimed Clara had been acting as a dutiful daughter and de facto caretaker. It stated that my increasing confusion and resistance to necessary care had necessitated her involvement. It included an affidavit from David. He stated he had observed significant memory lapses and financial confusion on my part. It included an affidavit from the cleaning lady. She stated the house was often disorganized, and I seemed forgetful. It included an affidavit from the realtor, Lisa. She stated I had been unable to follow the conversation about market value and seemed overwhelmed. Susan Park showed me the documents. They're building their case, she said. With hearsay and paid opinions, it's weak, but it creates noise. What do? I asked. We build a better case, she said. We get your own affidavits. We started with my doctor. I had a physical scheduled. Susan advised me to bring it up. At the appointment, I told my doctor about the guardianship threat. I asked for a cognitive assessment. Right then, he was surprised, but he agreed. He administered a standard test, the MMSC. I scored 30 out of 30. Perfect. He wrote a letter. He stated I was mentally sharp, fully oriented, and capable of managing my own affairs. He noted my mother was also in good health for her age. We got an affidavit from my longtime neighbor, Margaret. She was 75. Sharp as a tack. She stated she saw me daily, that I managed my home beautifully, that I cared for my mother with diligence, that I was the same capable woman she'd known for 30 years. We got an affidavit from my friend, Carol. We had been in a book club for 20 years. She stated I was an engaged participant, that I remembered details from complex novels, that I handled the club's treasury without error. Susan also hired a forensic accountant, a quiet man named Leo. He reviewed all the financial records. He traced the flow of money from my investment account to the new account, from the trust to Ellis Holdings, LLC. He prepared a report. It showed the excessive fees. It showed the personal expenses billed as household management. It showed that the funds transferred to Ellis Holdings had been used to pay credit card bills, Clara's credit card bills, for clothing, for restaurants, for a vacation to Cancun. The report was dry, full of numbers and charts. It was devastating. The court date was set for a hearing on the petition for an accounting. It was not a trial. It was a procedural step, but it was crucial. The night before, I couldn't sleep. I walked through the house. I touched the walls, the banister. I sat in the living room. In the dark, my mother found me. She sat beside me. She took my hand. Her hand was cool, thin. You are strong, Marion, she said. You are your father's daughter. I leaned my head on her shoulder. Just for a moment. We went to court the next morning. Susan met us there. Clara was there with her lawyer. David was with her. We did not speak. We did not look at each other. The courtroom was small, wood-paneled. The judge was a woman in her 60s. Judge Wilkins. She had a no-nonsense face. She called the case. Susan presented our petition. She was concise. She outlined the facts, the trust, the unauthorized disbursements, the forensic accounting. She submitted the affidavits of competence. Clara's lawyer stood. He argued his side. He talked about concern, about a daughter's love, about the burdens of caring for aging parents. He submitted the affidavits from David and the cleaning lady. Judge Wilkins listened. She took notes. She asked a few questions. She asked Clara's lawyer about Ellis Holdings. "What is the business purpose of this LLC?" she asked. "It's an investment vehicle," the lawyer said. "For whose benefit?" the judge asked. "For the family," he said. Vague. "The forensic report shows disbursements paid credit card debt, personal consumer debt. Is that an investment?" Judge Wilkins asked. Her tone was neutral. "It was a temporary measure," the lawyer said, "to streamline finances." Judge Wilkins looked at Clara. "Ms. Ellis," she said, "you are the manager of this LLC." Clara stood. She looked composed. "Elegant." "Yes, Your Honor." "Did you believe you had the authority to take money from your grandmother's trust for this LLC?" "I believed I was helping to manage the family assets," Clara said. "My mother was overwhelmed. I was trying to protect the money." "By moving it to an LLC you control?" the judge asked. "For safekeeping," Clara said. Her voice was less steady. "The report indicates you spent a portion on personal expenses. How is that safekeeping?" Clara was silent. Her lawyer stepped in. "Those were reimbursements for expenses incurred on behalf of my client's mother and grandmother, for their care." "Where are the receipts?" Judge Wilkins asked. "We can provide them," the lawyer said. "You haven't yet," the judge said. She looked back at her notes. The hearing lasted an hour. It was not dramatic. It was a discussion of facts, of authority, of money. At the end, Judge Wilkins ruled. She granted our petition for an accounting. She ordered Clara to provide a full, documented accounting of every dollar taken from the trust and the joint account within 30 days. She issued a temporary restraining order. It prohibited Clara from accessing any of my accounts, or my mother. It prohibited her from attempting to sell or mortgage the house. She also ordered Clara to show cause at a further hearing. Why she should not be required to return all the funds. With interest. It was a complete victory. On the procedural front, we walked out of the courtroom. Susan touched my arm. "Well done," she said. "This is a strong start. The pressure is on her now." Clara and her lawyer walked out behind us. In the hallway, Clara stopped. She looked at me. Her eyes were not hurt. They were cold, calculating. "This isn't over, Mom," she said. Her voice was low. "You've made a mistake." I looked at her. My only child. I saw the stranger she had become. "No," I said. "The mistakes were yours." I turned. I walked away with my mother. We drove home in silence. The relief was not sweet. It was hollow and heavy. The accounting arrived 2 weeks later. It was a mess. Incomplete. Numbers didn't add up. Expenses were listed as care services with no detail. The credit card payments were labeled household provisioning. Susan reviewed it. She had Leo, the forensic accountant, review it. "It's a confession of guilt," Susan said. "It's so bad it's good for us. She's either hiding something or she's incompetent with the very money she wanted to control." We scheduled the next hearing to compel the return of the assets. Clara's response was a counterpetition. She filed for guardianship over me and over my mother. She claimed we were victims of undue influence by my lawyer. She claimed Susan was exploiting me, draining the trust with legal fees. She petitioned the court to appoint a neutral guardian, to take control away from me and from Clara, to put it in the hands of a court-appointed stranger. It was a nuclear option. It raised the stakes dramatically. When Susan told me, I felt the floor drop away. She can do that, I asked. She can file it, Susan said. It's a serious allegation. It will trigger evaluations. It will be intrusive, but it's also a sign of desperation. She's losing on the financial front, so she's attacking your personhood. What do we do? My voice was a whisper. We fight it, Susan said. Her voice was steel. We show the court exactly who is exploiting whom. We turn her own weapon against her. The process was slow and deeply invasive. A court investigator came to the house, a pleasant woman named Gina. She interviewed me. She interviewed my mother. Separately, she asked about our daily routine, our finances, our relationship with Clara. She asked me why I thought my daughter would do this. I showed her my documentation, my timeline. She took notes. She was impartial, unreadable. A psychiatrist came, appointed by the court. He evaluated me. He evaluated my mother. He asked about my mood, my memory, my understanding of the legal situation. He gave me tests. He interviewed me for 2 hours. It was exhausting, humiliating, but I answered every question. Calmly, clearly. My mother did the same. Through it all, Clara's campaign continued. She told family friends I was failing. She told my cousins I was being manipulated by a greedy lawyer. She created a story, and she spread it. The silence in my own life grew thicker. But some people reached out. My neighbor Margaret called. I heard a rumor, Marion, she said. From Betty at the garden club. She said Clara told her you have early dementia, that you're suing her. Is it true? I told her the truth. A simplified version. Margaret was quiet. Then she said, that little witch. She became an ally. She spread the counter story. To the garden club. To the neighborhood. Quietly. The court dates dragged on. Months passed. The guardianship hearing was set. It would be the main event. Susan prepared meticulously. She lined up our witnesses. My doctor. My neighbor. My friend from book club. The forensic accountant. She prepared me for testimony. They will try to fluster you, she said. To make you seem confused. Stay calm. Answer only the question asked. If you don't understand, say so. Take your time. The night before the hearing, I sat in my study. I looked at the file. It was inches thick now. A record of betrayal. I wasn't angry anymore. I was sad. A deep, weary sadness. But I was also resolved. The hearing lasted 2 days. It was held in a larger courtroom. Clara sat at her table. She looked drawn, thinner. David sat behind her. He looked uncomfortable. Our witnesses testified. My doctor was definitive. Ms. Ellis is one of my most competent patients. There is no medical basis for a guardianship. My neighbor Margaret was fierce. Marion Ellis is the backbone of her street. Clara is the one who's changed. She's become hard, greedy if you want my opinion. The judge sustained an objection to that. But the jury had heard it. The forensic accountant, Leo, was dry and crushing. He showed the flow of money. He showed the lies in Clara's accounting. He called it a classic case of misappropriation disguised as care. Then Clara's witnesses testified. David. He spoke haltingly. He said he loved his wife. He said she was stressed, trying to help. Under cross-examination, Susan was gentle. Mr. Ellis, did you ever see Marion forget to pay a bill? No. Did you ever see her leave the stove on? No. Did you ever see her get lost? No. So your concern is based on what your wife told you? Yes. And the credit card bills paid by Ellis Holdings, were those for your wife's caregiving expenses? He hesitated. I don't know the details. The statements show charges for men's dress shirts. At a store I frequent, do you wear a size 42 long? David's face reddened. Yes. Thank you. The cleaning lady testified. She said the house was cluttered. Under cross, she admitted cluttered meant there were books on the coffee table and knitting on the sofa. She admitted Clara paid her double her normal rate. The realtor, Lisa, testified. She said I seemed confused about property value. Susan cross-examined. You presented an offer significantly below market, correct? It was a starting point, based on comparables you selected. Yes. Did you include the sale of 221 Maple, which sold for 50% more per square foot 3 months prior? That property was updated. Ours has a new roof and furnace. Did you note that? It may not have been in the initial report. Thank you. Then Clara took the stand. Her lawyer led her through her story. The worried daughter. The overwhelmed mother. The gradual need to step in. She cried. Softly. Elegantly. She talked about her love for me. Her fear for her grandmother. It was a good performance. Then Susan stood for cross-examination. She started softly. You love your mother. Yes. You want what's best for her. Of course. Part of what's best is her financial security. Yes. The trust your grandmother left provides that security. It was meant to. You took money from that trust. I managed it. You moved it to Ellis Holdings, LLC, a company you own. For better management. You used some of that money to pay your personal credit card bill. For expenses I incurred for them. What specific expense on this statement? Susan held up a page. For $200 at the Sapphire Spa was for your mother or grandmother. Clara paused. That might have been a gift for Mom, for her birthday. Her birthday is in November. This charge is from March. Silence. So it was not for her. It might have been a mistake. A mistake. Susan moved on. She asked about the joint account, the change of address, the primary holder status. Clara said it was for efficiency. She said she was handling the bills. Susan showed her the statements, with the gourmet food subscriptions, the excessive service fees. Are these necessary for your mother's health and safety? They are for her quality of life. Did she ask for them? She didn't have to. I provided them. With her money. With family money. Your mother's money. Clara's composure began to crack. It wasn't a dramatic break. It was a slow leak. Her answers became shorter. Sharper. Susan kept her tone even. Factual. The guardianship petition. You believe your mother cannot manage her own affairs. I believe she needs protection. From whom? From those who would take advantage. From me. From anyone. But specifically, you alleged undue influence by me. Yes. Because I am helping her recover the money you took. Objection. Sustained. But the point was made. The judge watched closely. Finally, Susan asked her last question. Ms. Ellis, if the court does not appoint you as guardian, what is your greatest fear for your mother? Clara looked at me. Her eyes were clear now. All pretense of tears gone. That she will be alone, Clara said. That she will lose everything and have no one to blame but herself. It was chilling. In its certainty. No further questions, Susan said. I testified last. I was nervous. But Susan's preparation held. I answered simply. Yes, I managed the bills. Yes, I understood my finances. Yes, I had hired a lawyer because my daughter had taken money without permission. I explained why I didn't confront her directly. I was afraid, I said. My voice was quiet but clear. I was afraid she would do exactly what she did, use my questions as proof I was incompetent, so I sought legal advice instead. The judge nodded. Clara's lawyer cross-examined. He tried to trip me up. He asked about specific dates, about financial terms. He asked if I felt influenced by my lawyer. I pay her for her advice, I said. I listen to it, then I make my own decisions. That is not influence. That is hearing an expert. He asked if I was angry with my daughter. I am disappointed, I said. And I am sad, but I am not angry. Anger doesn't recover what was lost. He had no more questions. The hearing ended. Judge Wilkins said she would take the matter under advisement. She would rule within 30 days. We left the courtroom. The 30 days passed slowly. I tended my garden. I had tea with my mother. I waited. The call came from Susan on a Thursday afternoon. The ruling is in, she said. Can you come to my office tomorrow? Just tell me, I said. I was sitting in my chair by the window. She denied the guardianship petition. In full, she found no evidence of incapacity. She found compelling evidence of financial exploitation by Clara. I closed my eyes. And, I asked. And she granted our petition for a return of assets. She orders Clara to repay every cent taken from the trust and the joint account, plus interest and legal fees within 60 days. If she fails, we can begin collections, levying bank accounts, placing liens. What about the house? I asked. The temporary restraining order is made permanent. Clara has no claim, no authority. The deed is clear. It's yours and your mother. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. Thank you, I said. You did the work, Marion. You documented everything. You stayed calm. The court saw the truth. We hung up. I told my mother. She nodded. She took my hand. Good, she said. That was all. The aftermath was not a celebration. It was paperwork. Clara did not repay the money voluntarily. 60 days passed. Susan began collection proceedings. A lien was placed on Clara and David's house, on their bank accounts. It forced a settlement. Clara's lawyer contacted Susan. They negotiated a sum. It was less than the full amount, but it was significant. It was paid from the equity in their home. We accepted it. To be done. The legal case was closed. The family case was not. Clara did not call. She did not write. She vanished from our lives. Completely. I heard through a cousin that she and David moved to another state for a fresh start. I did not seek details. My mother and I stayed in the house. I managed the finances. I paid the bills. The trust was replenished. With the settlement money, it was secure again. I planted new flowers in the garden. I joined a new book club, a quieter one. Life resumed its rhythm, but it was a different rhythm, a quieter one, a lonelier one. Sometimes, at night, I think about the little girl she was, the one who loved stories, the one who held my hand crossing the street. I wonder when that person left, and who replaced her. I have no answer. The law gave me justice, a quiet, procedural justice. It did not give me my daughter back. That was the true cost, paid not from a bank account, but from the quiet space where love used to be. I live with that emptiness. I tend to it, like a garden that will not bloom. I am not bitter. I am resigned. And sometimes, in the late afternoon light, when the house is very still, I allow myself one single, haunting question. It is not about the money, or the lies, or the love. It is simpler than that, and much, much harder. I look at the empty chair where she used to sit, and I ask myself, was she always this person? Or did I help make her? Chunk 2. The settlement money arrived. It was a wire transfer, a string of numbers in the trust account. Susan Park's final invoice came too. I paid it. I sent her a thank you note. She wrote back, "You were the strongest client I've had. Take care of yourself." I filed her note away, with the rest of the documents. The house was quiet. My mother took naps in the afternoon. I started walking. Long walks through the neighborhood. I noticed things I hadn't before. The way the light hit certain roofs. The gardens of my neighbors. People waved. Some stopped to talk. They didn't mention Clara. They didn't mention the court. They talked about the weather, about a new bakery, about a lost cat. It was a kindness, this unspoken agreement to be normal. Months turned into a year. My mother's health began a slow decline. It was not dramatic. It was the gentle fatting of age. She needed more help, getting in and out of chairs, remembering her medications. I hired a part-time aide, a warm, capable woman named Rosa. She came 3 mornings a week. She helped my mother bathe. She made her lunch. She was kind. She was an employee. The boundary was clear. It was a relief. One afternoon, my mother and I were in the living room. She was knitting, a simple scarf. She looked up. "You should change the locks," she said. Her voice was matter of fact. I put down my book. What? The locks on the doors. Clara still has a key. I had not thought of that. In all the legal tumult, the physical key, it was still out there. You're right, I said. I called a locksmith the next day. He came. He changed all the exterior locks. He gave me 6 new keys. I put one on my ring. I gave one to Rosa. For the days she came. I put the others in a drawer. The act felt final. More final than the judge's order. It was a physical severing. A small metal click of an ending. Seasons changed. The maple tree in the front yard turned red. Then gold. Then bare. Winter came. My mother caught a cold. It settled in her chest. The doctor prescribed antibiotics. Rosa came more often. I slept in the chair in my mother's room to listen to her breathe. One night she was restless. I helped her sit up. I gave her water. She looked at me. Her eyes were bright with fever. "I'm sorry," she said. Her voice was a whisper. "For what, Mom?" "For her, for my granddaughter. The fault goes back." I shook my head. "It's not your fault. A tree grows from its roots," she said. Then she coughed. I held the glass for her again. She drank. She lay back down. She fell asleep. I stayed in the chair, watching her, thinking about roots. My mother recovered, but she was slower after that, more fragile. The walks she used to take around the garden became shorter. Then they became sitting on the porch, watching the garden. Spring returned. I planted annuals, bright petunias, marigolds, things that would bloom all summer. Rosa suggested we get a medical alert system, a pendant my mother could wear. I agreed. A technician came and installed it. He showed us how it worked. My mother wore the pendant. She never used it, but it was a comfort to us both. I began to think about the future, the long future, beyond my mother. I met with a new financial advisor, one I found through a trusted referral. We sat in my kitchen. I showed him the trust documents, the investment statements. He asked about my goals. Security, I said, and simplicity. He nodded. He created a plan. Conservative, transparent. All statements would come only to me, by paper mail, to this address. I signed the paperwork. I felt a sense of order, a reclaiming. That summer, I received a letter. It was not certified, just a plain envelope. My address was typed. The return address was a P.O. box in another state. I knew who it was from. I opened it. There was a single sheet of paper. No greeting. No signature. It read, "I heard about Grandma. I hope she is okay. What happened was a misunderstanding. I hope one day you can see that. A mother shouldn't shut out her child, no matter what." I read it 3 times. I felt nothing. No anger. No sadness. Just a cold, flat clarity. It was not an apology. It was a revision. An attempt to rewrite history into a misunderstanding. To shift the blame to me for shutting her out. I did not crumple the letter. I did not tear it up. I took it to my study. I placed it in the file with the other documents. It was evidence, not for a court, but for me. A reminder of the narrative she needed to tell herself. I did not respond. Silence was my reply. My mother's 93rd birthday came. We had a small cake. Just the two of us. And Rosa. We sang. My mother blew out the candle. She made a wish. She didn't tell us what it was. But she smiled. A real peaceful smile. That fall, the inevitable happened. My mother fell. In the bathroom. She reached for the towel bar. It came loose from the wall. She went down. She did not cry out. I found her. She was on the floor. Calm. I've had a spill, she said. I called the ambulance. She wore her medical alert pendant, but she had not pressed it. At the hospital, they found a broken hip. They did surgery. She came through it, but the recovery was hard. The hospital's social worker talked to me about rehab, about long-term care options. My mother was clear. I want to go home, she said. Her voice was weak, but firm. I brought her home. We set up a hospital bed in the living room so she could see the garden. Hire more help. A night nurse. A physical therapist. The trust paid for it. It was its purpose. For her health. For her maintenance. For her support. She never went back to her upstairs bedroom. She lived in the living room, surrounded by her things. Her knitting basket. Her photos. Her books. I slept on the sofa nearby. For months, we talked in the quiet hours. She told me stories I had never heard. About her own mother. About the war. About meeting my father. She spoke of regrets. Small ones. A trip not taken. A harsh word spoken. She never mentioned Clara. Not once. It was as if that branch of the family tree had been silently pruned. Away. Her body weakened, but her mind remained. Sharp. Clear. One evening, she asked for her jewelry box. I brought it to her. She opened it. It was not valuable. Costume jewelry mostly. A few pieces of real gold. She sifted through it. She pulled out a ring. A simple gold band. This was my mother, she said. I want you to have it. She pressed it into my hand. Thank you, Mom. She held my hand for a long moment. You have been a good daughter, she said. Her eyes were steady on mine. The best. 2 weeks later, she died. In her sleep. In the hospital bed, in the living room. With the morning light coming through the window. It was peaceful. It was time. The funeral was small. A few neighbors. A few old friends. My cousin from out of town. It was simple. Dignified. We buried her next to my father. I stood at the graveside. Alone. But not lonely. I felt her absence. A deep, hollow space. But I also felt her presence. In the ring on my finger. In the house around me. In my own bones. After the funeral, the paperwork began. The death certificate. Notifying Social Security. Closing accounts. I was the executor of her will. Her will was simple. Everything came to me. The house. The remainder of her small estate. It was straightforward. I handled it methodically, one task at a time. The house felt different now. Larger. Quieter. I kept Rosa on for a while. To help me clean. To sort through my mother's clothes. To donate them. We worked together. Silently. Respectfully. When the work was done, I thanked Rosa. I gave her a generous bonus. We hugged. She left. I was truly alone. For the first time in my life. A woman alone in her family home. I did not rush to fill the silence. I let it be. I learned its textures, its rhythms. I took up gardening more seriously. I learned about soil pH, about pruning. I planted a rose bush, where my mother's chair used to sit on the porch. It bloomed a deep, velvety red. A year passed, then another. My life settled into a new pattern. Quiet, self-contained. I volunteered at the local library, shelving books. It was peaceful. I enjoyed the order of it, the quiet company of stories. One day, while shelving in the history section, I saw a familiar name. On the spine of a book. It was a book about local architecture. I pulled it out. I flipped through it. There was a chapter on mid-century homes. My street was mentioned. There was a photo of my house from the 1950s. It looked almost the same. I checked the book out. I brought it home. I showed the picture to the house, as if it could see. "Look," I said. "You're famous." It was a silly thing, but it felt like a connection to a past that was not my own, but that I was now the steward of. Time moved. I turned 62, then 65. I took my Social Security. I had my Medicare meeting. I handled it all myself, with my file folders, my notes. I was competent. I was capable. The legal victory had cemented that, not just in the eyes of the court, but in my own soul. I knew what I could do. I knew what I had survived. One afternoon, the doorbell rang. It was a process server, a young man in a polo shirt. He handed me an envelope. "Marion Ellis," he asked. "Yes." "You've been served." He turned and left. I stood in the doorway. The envelope was heavy. I took it to the kitchen table. I opened it. It was a lawsuit. The caption made my breath catch. "Clara Ellis, plaintiff, v. Marion Ellis, defendant." I skimmed it. My hands were steady. It was a claim for unjust enrichment and constructive trust. The narrative was stunning. It claimed that the funds I had recovered from her through the court order were, in fact, her rightful inheritance. It claimed that I had manipulated my mother in her final years, that I had alienated her from her only grandchild, that I had exerted undue influence to secure the entirety of the estate for myself. It demanded a jury trial. It demanded that I pay Clara a sum equal to half the value of my mother's estate, plus the legal fees from the previous case, plus damages for emotional distress. I read it twice. The audacity was breathtaking. The sheer, grinding aggression of it. She had waited. She had waited for my mother to die, for the legal fees from the first case to be a memory. Then she struck, with a new lawyer, a new theory. She was trying to litigate her way back into my life and into my bank account. I did not panic. I felt a strange, cold calm. I made a cup of tea. I sat at the table. I looked at the lawsuit. I knew what to do. I called Susan Park. Her assistant said she was in a meeting. I left a message. Susan, it's Marian Ellis. Clara has filed a new lawsuit. I've been served. Please call me when you can. I hung up. I went to my study. I opened the file. The thick, familiar file. I added this new document to the end. I updated the timeline. I waited. Susan called back 2 hours later. "Read me the caption," she said. I did. She was silent for a moment. "Okay," she said. "This is a nuisance suit. It's designed to harass you, to make you spend money, to wear you down. The claims are frivolous. The statute of limitations on most of this has likely passed, but we have to respond aggressively." "What do?" I asked. "We file a motion to dismiss. We argue the claims are barred by the previous judgment, by res judicata. The matter has already been decided. We also file a motion for sanctions, for the cost of defending this. We argue it's a vexatious, bad faith lawsuit." "Will that work?" I asked. "It will show her we won't be bullied. It will turn the tables. The court does not look kindly on this. It clogs the docket. It's wasteful." I agreed. I authorized her to proceed. The retainer was smaller this time, but still significant. I wrote the check. Again, the fight was back on. But I was different now. I was older. I was wearier. But I was also stronger. In a quiet, unshakable way. Susan filed the motions. The court scheduled a hearing. On the motion to dismiss. We went back. The courtroom was different. The judge was different. A man. Judge Henderson. He had a reputation for being impatient. With nonsense. Susan argued our motion. She was brilliant. Concise. She laid out the history. The previous litigation. The judgment. The settlement. This is a transparent attempt to relitigate matters that have been fully and finally adjudicated, she said. It is harassment. It is an abuse of the judicial process. Clara's new lawyer argued. He was younger, smoother. He talked about separate claims, about elder alienation, about the true wishes of the decedent. Judge Henderson listened. He frowned. He asked pointed questions. "Counselor, where is your evidence of this alleged undue influence? Specifically." "The evidence is in the alienation itself, Your Honor. The grandmother was prevented from seeing her granddaughter." "By court order?" the judge asked. "By the defendant's actions. The previous court found the plaintiff had financially exploited her grandmother. Is that correct?" "That finding is disputed." "It is a finding of this court. It is recorded. Are you alleging judicial error in that proceeding?" The lawyer hesitated. "No, Your Honor, not at this time." "So you accept that finding as valid?" "For the purposes of this motion." "Answer the question, Counselor." "Yes, Your Honor." So the plaintiff was found to have exploited her grandmother. Now, after her grandmother's death, she claims the grandmother wanted to give her money. Does that strike you as a credible narrative? The courtroom was silent. Clara's lawyer had no good answer. Judge Henderson did not wait long. He granted our motion to dismiss. With prejudice, meaning it could not be refiled. He also granted our motion for sanctions. He ordered Clara to pay my reasonable attorney's fees for defending the suit. He set a hearing to determine the amount. It was over in 20 minutes. We walked out. Clara was not there. She had not come. Only her lawyer. He looked embarrassed. He packed his briefcase quickly. He left without looking at us. In the hallway, Susan let out a small sigh. "That," she said, "is what we call a total victory." "Thank you," I said. "She won't bother you again," Susan said. "If she tries anything else, any other court will see this pattern. She'll be labeled a vexatious litigant. It's over." I believed her. This time, I felt the finality, like a heavy door closing and locking. The sanctions hearing was a formality. Susan submitted her hours. The judge approved them. Clara was ordered to pay. I doubt she ever did. But it didn't matter. The judgment was on the record. A lien could be placed if she ever owned anything again. I did not pursue it. I was done. Truly done. I went home. I planted more roses. I joined a gardening club. I made acquaintances. Not deep friends, but pleasant company. I traveled a little. Short trips. To see gardens. In other cities. I always came home. The house was my anchor. My responsibility. My sanctuary. Years continued to pass. The quiet kind of years. Marked by seasons. By blooms. By books read. I thought of Clara less and less. She became a story I had lived through. Like an illness. Or a storm. The sharp edges of the memory softened. Not with forgiveness, but with distance. With the sheer passage of time. One winter, I slipped on an icy step. I broke my wrist. It was a simple fracture, but it was my right wrist. It made everything difficult. Cooking, writing, gardening. My neighbors noticed. Margaret, now quite old herself, brought over soup. Her daughter, who lived with her, checked on me. The library sent a volunteer with books. I was not alone. The community held me. In small, practical ways. It was a different kind of care. One without strings. Without expectation. It healed me. In more ways than one. When I recovered, I started writing. Not a journal. Not a story. Just observations. About the garden. About the light. About the birds at the feeder. Short sentences. Simple words. It was a practice. A way of paying attention. I found I liked it. It grounded me. I turned 70. I had a small party. Margaret came. A few ladies from the garden club. We had cake. It was nice. That night, I sat in my chair. I looked at the ring on my finger. My grandmother's ring. I thought about legacy. Not of money or property, but of resilience, of quiet strength. I had not given that to my daughter. Perhaps I had, and she had rejected it, or twisted it. I would never know. I accepted that. The final piece of letting go is accepting the not knowing, the permanent mystery of another person's heart. One spring, a realtor came to the door. Unexpectedly. A different one. A young man. He asked if I had ever considered selling. The neighborhood was hot, he said. I could get a fortune. I smiled. I said no. I was not considering it. He left his card. Just in case. I threw it away. This house was not an investment. It was a life. My life. I would live it here. Until I could not. I made plans. A proper will. Not just the simple one I had. I met with an estate attorney. I left the house to the local historical society with an endowment for its upkeep. The remainder of my estate, the trust, would go to a charity for elder justice. It felt right. A circle closing. The money that had been fought over would now help others in similar fights. I filed the new will. I told my lawyer to keep it. I told no one else. It was my business. My final, quiet decision. Now I am 73. I sit in the same chair. The tea is gone. The light is fading. The story is told. It was a story of betrayal, of quiet control, of a war fought with paperwork and patience. It was a story of justice, a procedural, undramatic justice. It left scars, but it also left me whole. I have what I need. A roof, a garden, my books, my memories, the good ones and the hard ones. I do not hate my daughter. I feel nothing for her. That is the truest end. Not love, not hate, a neutral silence. She is a stranger who shares my DNA, a character in a story that is over. My life is simple. It is mine. I tend it. I care for it. I answer to no one. That is the victory. Not the money. Not the house. The sovereignty over my own days. The peace of a decision unchallenged. The quiet of a key turning in a lock. That I alone hold. The story is done. But life is not. It continues. In small, precious increments. A cup of tea. A blooming rose. A paragraph in a book. A moment of sun on the floor. This is enough. It is more than enough. It is everything I fought for. And everything I have. I look out at the maple tree. It has grown so tall. It has seen it all. It will outlive me. That is as it should be. I have one question left. It is not for Clara. It is not for the courts. It is for me. In the gathering twilight, I listen to the quiet house. And I ask myself the only thing that remains. Was it worth it? The fight. The cost. The lonely peace. I sit with the silence. The answer is there. In the stillness. In the breath I take. In the simple, unshakable fact of my own freedom. I take another breath. The story is over. The life goes on. It is enough. It is enough.